to this special meeting, which is meeting number 198, held 21st August 2025, virtually, so via Microsoft Teams, scheduled to proceed until 3:30, but it being a one agenda item meeting, we're hoping that we'll finish well before the time. Would like to, maybe before I proceed, to also welcome the members of the public that are following us through the various live streaming platforms. My name is Muzu Vugile, Muzi for short, Mkize. I'm the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for Petroleum Pipelines regulation, and I'm going to be chairing this meeting. With me is the deputy chairperson of NERSA, as well as the chair of the Human Resources and Remuneration Committee, who is also a member of this Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee. Madam Pungose, over to you. May I greet?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to members of the Energy Regulator in attendance, as well as the members of the public that are following us through various live platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Pungose. This being Women's Month, I will follow up with another lady who is the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for pipe gas regulation, currently also assisting as a full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for electricity regulation. She is a member of various committees of NERSA, as well as a member of this Petroleum Pipelines Subcommittee. Over to you, Madam Nomfundo Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to the members and the management of NERSA, and to the stakeholders following us on the proceedings of today's meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Maseti. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce the gentleman, Mr. Sibanda, who is a part-time regulator member, as well as a chairperson of the Information Technology Governance Committee, as well as a member of various committees of NERSA, and is here as a member of the Petroleum Pipelines Regulation Subcommittee. Over to you, Mr. Sibanda.
Good afternoon, Chair, colleagues, and members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presence, noting the challenges that you were having in the beginning to connect to this platform. We'll then proceed, members, to adopt the agenda of today. Any changes suggested to this agenda, which is actually, as I said, a one agenda item meeting? If not, by show of hands, members, if you support the adoption of the agenda as presented. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Madam Pungose. Thank you, Madam Pungose. I also support the adoption of the agenda as presented. I will then take this opportunity to give to the executive manager for Petroleum Pipelines Regulation, Madam Mtwa, and her team, to then present this one agenda item, which is the Cape Oceans Terminal application for the construction of petroleum storage facilities to be located in Saldanha Bay Industrial Development Zone, and a pipeline connecting it to the berth in the port of Saldanha, Western Cape Province. Over to you, Madam. Please just zoom into the issues that were previously raised and how those have been addressed. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and good afternoon to the members and the members of the public. And thank you for this opportunity to resubmit this enhanced report based on the questions and comments that members had. As per your guidance, Chairperson, Martin will take us through the the updated version of the document, highlighting the issues that were of concern, and also looking in terms of the abilities, technical, financial, and administrative abilities, and also indicating that we've since managed to also meet the financial institution and get their indication on the letter that they had initially sent and confirm the status. So without taking too much time, maybe allow Mr. Untit to then take us through the updated version, just highlighting as per guidance, Mr. Untit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mutwa, Chairperson, members of the subcommittee, and members of the public listening in. Chair, on Convene, there's 3 documents uploaded, and on the link, I'll be just highlighting in the chairperson's report. This was considered as a resubmission, and the enhanced documents are here, and the key issues raised by the members effectively is in the chairperson's report table in that document. We will focus on 3 aspects: the demonstration of the financial ability, demonstration of the technical and administrative abilities, and the assessment of the anticipated project performance. I will explain what we mean by that, but that was the key themes from what is listed in the table. So in terms of financial ability, lines 1, 6, 9, and 10 of that table, the questions is then listed, and then our response and what has been enhanced. I think the status of the debt funding and equity injection and on the observations from the Secretariat is given there. It's important to point out that it has submitted the minimum requirements that to enable NERSA to conduct this assessment. And the submission first served, one of the key concerns was the lack of the sufficient status on the funding arrangements. As Ms. Mutwa has indicated, we also met with the funder, which we will not name, but referred to as the funder, financial institution, and they clarified and confirmed some of these seemingly shortcomings that is suggested, the fact that it may be old. They confirmed, and they actually gave us new updated confirmations. So I think that has been now positively addressed. Secondly, we do acknowledge at this stage that the equity portion is maybe one of the aspects in terms of the funder's term sheet, which was confirmed, and that to be injected into the project. However, noting that the shortfall being erased, and I don't think this is confidential, it was presented in the meeting, the shareholder company is Carbonado Energy, which will basically then supply that portion of the equity injection. It's important to note that we've provided satisfactory provisions in terms of the letters of interest, albeit that they also of the standard format where there is always the disclaimer that it is subject to final due diligence to be done. In 2022, the same committee was faced with the same situation for 2 other new entrants. And this is public information, Naport and Lanele, which was incidentally using one of them, the same funder and or combination of the funders that's also involved in this case. So we did consider those letters of interest as a means to demonstrate the financial ability. The acceptance of these letters of interest arose from the barriers to entry for these new entrants. I think this was also articulated in the public hearing by the applicant, that they also have to use the project financing approach rather than the approach that incumbents and oil majors and multinationals may have in terms of having equity and retained earnings, and basically then starting off the project and then close to completion, converting it to debt, which is the model that most of the other licensees, well, the balance of NERSA's construction licensees has done. So based on these mentioned factors, we were comforted with the fact that the principal and the majority debt funder still support this project, as was confirmed in our own independent due diligence with them, and that new entrants rely on this principle, and that has also been the case for the other two parties that I've mentioned, which was considered by this committee. So in terms of that, it's stipulated that those letters of interest and term sheets are fairly industry standard in terms of how they look for projects of this scale. As a closing remark on this aspect, then we will apply the regulatory lens together with the objects of the Act to argue that the applicant has demonstrated the requirements satisfactory in terms of this regard. Secondly, administrative and technical abilities was also flagged by the members in the public hearing, as well as the recent PPS consideration. So that's also indicated in the table. We can confirm that we've got profiles of the administrative and technical team in the application in terms of who these parties are, and the current nominated project manager and project directors both have solid experience in the oil and gas industry, and having been part of large infrastructure developments from concept to commissioning, similar to this project. And then incidentally, one of them has also been on another project that NERSA licensed and was succeeded by a new entrant that was successfully commissioned in Cape Town since. Therefore, while the applicant itself does not have a direct track record, because they've been in the trading aspect, the company, the shareholding company of the applicant, more in trading for 14 years. The caliber of the current partners provides us assurances team of the project's progress, and that the qualified individuals and organizations will be appointed at the time of this project financing model. So in terms of that, important to note that the funder did confirm that they also pre-check the qualifications of the EPC contractors. So although one of the comments from the members that they haven't been appointed yet, they have been pre-qualified, they've submitted bids, and that will be part of the final consideration of the funding by the funder itself. Therefore, Chair, in line with some of the other concerns raised by the members on the commercial and financial merits, I think we have done the assessment there, added a key issue titled Assessment of the Anticipated Project Performance. Page 16 of the RFD, specifically there 5.9 or 29 on page 7, that is listed there. That was assessed the financial model and the projected tariff for this facility. That was also a specific question from the committee. Our conclusion, and this was done in consultation with our tariffs department, our conclusion was that the project has sound commercial foundations, we foresee strong financial returns based on the model and the spreadsheet that they did provide to us, and concluded that it will be sustainable and economic project. I think in the cover submission, you will note the tariffs. Now, in this case, this tariff is indicative, therefore it is still, let's say, deemed confidential at this stage, but later it will not be. But just to give you the comparison was given to the members there, and how well a project of this nature is comparing in terms of that. So our conclusion that it has this commercial foundation, and that tariff comparison that we provided there for other facilities in the Western Cape in same or similar comparable market segments, table 4, page 18 of the RFD is there, and therefore should be commercially justifiable. Then lastly, in terms of the prudency assessment, at the licensing stage, mainly look at the demonstrated need for the facility in question. And the team's secretaries found that based on the letters of intent for the users of this facility by an anchor tenant, which the details on the document is available, that indeed a need was established, which is also supported by the forecast scenarios, which show the increase in the consumption of petroleum products, noting that we've moved from a local refining situation to a net import situation. At the time of the two other applicants in 2021-22, we were sitting at about 30% import, coming up from 1920 at the time of NERSA's inception. That figure has moved up, depending on who you speak to, what quote, up to 80% of imports coming into the country, which then also supports this scenario of imports and capacity, and the signaling a need for increased storage capacity. The concern raised by potential hindrance of third-party access by the members, given that there's only one anchor tenant, that signed up the entire phase of phase 1 capacity, has been duly highlighted in the revised RFD, paragraph 554, basically indicating that the applicant is mandated to determine uncommitted capacity. NERSA is mandated to determine the uncommitted capacity, and where underutilization is found, that third parties must be accommodated with the allocation of that. But it does now, on the other hand, give certainty in terms of the feasibility of the project when it kicks off. There is then also the plan for further capacity, which will be a separate process and reapplication for that, where other parties can also be incorporated. Having said that, Chair, my last comment is just, I think I've gone back and I've assessed the submissions for the other two parties that served at this committee, and I'm quoting from one of the submissions that in terms of the aspect of legal advisory service, also then supported that and was included in that submission, that the Act does not prescribe the detailed requirements to demonstrate financial ability. So while it does say NERSA must consider that and it needs to be proven, the level of detail and comfort, and NERSA, the energy regulator, has the discretion to conclude on whether the applicant has satisfactorily demonstrated. And as I indicated, that was the finding from the committee. And then in terms of my last comment, Chair, then I'll be done. We've also subsequently did a comparison of there's only 4 new entrants that has been licensed by NASA since its inception. This is public knowledge. Narport, Nandeli, Cape Ocean Terminal is now only applying as part of the comparison, but then there was also Econ Oil, and then by Bergen Cape Terminal. So in terms of the comparison, it's interesting to note the challenges, the barriers that new entrants face, which was also cited in those reasons for decision, which is public knowledge, is they all had to apply twice. First time were not successful, maybe for different reasons in terms of that, and then they reapplied and that was approved. Secondly, that post-approval, the 2 projects that did not proceed was based on challenges for other regulatory approvals and litigation, and not as such funding. The projects are similar in size. The investment amounts for a project of this nature is typically between 1 and 3 billion rand, depending on the size and the details. They all use project finance approach. Capital structures is more or less the same, and it's also the optimum that I think NASA has determined in its guidelines of what the capital structure should be. And then we've discussed the administrative and technical abilities. In terms of audit development, in this case, there's no other fuels, and I think this was one of the questions from one of the members. There's no other liquid fuels currently in refined product in Saldanha. The facilities licensed there, including new entrants, are for LPG. So in this sense, all of the Western Cape of that area and the Northern Cape are supplied from Cape Town or other supply points currently. So this will be the first. I think the last point is that there is a ministerial directive by the Minister of Transport that was issued to say that the state-owned entity SFF has to construct common berth facilities there, which will then be used for amongst others, their extended mandate for strategic stocks for refined products, LPG to start off, and then also liquid fuels. And then transformation. My last comment, I think they have proven the credentials in terms of that as being a BEE, 100% BEE company, and therefore that is also one of the important considerations in the Act, keeping in mind that, as I said, only 4 such parties has been licensed in NERSA's almost 20 years of existence. And then the concluding sentence, Chair, is that barriers for new entrants is high, capital intensive nature. They have to do some work up front before bankers or funders will engage with them more firmly. They do not have the balance sheets and equity like incumbents and only have the project financing means to do it, which come with this chicken and egg situation in a way that certain steps can be done only at certain points in that stage gate process. The funders are dictating that then there is certain pre-requirements, and that's typically in the term sheet. And in terms of then their own due diligence processes They will do financial, technical, regulatory, and legal assessment, and the funder confirmed those two parties is appointed by them, but paid for by the applicant. So they actually work for the funder, and they will scrutinize the project to then actually do the final funding finalization. Funding does not guarantee success of these greenfield projects. We have seen over the years, because there are also other challenges which is typically then not just directly related to that, especially import facilities where there's also another regulator in terms of concessions, agreements, and permits. Thank you, Chair. I want to conclude by saying the recommendation, therefore, with all considering all the members' comments and input and trying our best to enhance the documents accordingly, the recommendation is still to grant for the committee to consider the granting of such a license, as stated in the cover submission, and then to make that recommendation to the energy regulator for final consideration. Thank you, Chair, and sorry for being long.
No, Mr. Untiti, that we've got this one agenda item, and then I have allowed you to have 4 last comments, 1 final comment, and 2 concluding statements. It's fine, but to appreciate it, I will then want to know, Madam Twa, is there any member of the team that wants to say something?
Chairperson, I think Mr. Undi has covered all the aspects that we wanted to raise as the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Twa, and I think we're covered. We'll then just like to then take this opportunity to give members to make any comments, provide guidance, or ask any question, noting that all the previous questions raised, concerns raised have been addressed in terms of the content of the submission and the reasons for decision document. Members, any questions? By show of hands, please. I have Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to Mr. Untit for the comprehensive introduction of the submission. Mr. Untit touched on the number of other applications that we have looked at. And I think in terms of those applications, we also had some lessons that we learned, and we also encountered certain challenges at a later stage, challenges pertaining to taking a decision when we do not have the relevant information or sufficient information at our disposal at the time of taking the decision. And as a result of that, especially on the issues pertaining to financial abilities, as a result of not having sufficient information, we also had to try and come up with some conditions of license because there was a lot of dependencies at the time of taking the decision. And that then took us to a point where we had to seek some legal opinion and advice. Without delving into the legal opinion, the one thing that the energy regulator or that came out of it is that it is important for the energy regulator to not try to fix an application that is not adequately supported by evidence that will give us comfort in taking the decision. Because at the time of taking the decision, it was stated clearly that we should have all of that information, as we cannot now try and manage the inadequacy through some condition that we impose as part of the decision. It was stated on a number of them, including the Econ Oil, and that was a senior counsel opinion. Now, coming to this matter, my one issue that I want to find out here is whether we have sufficient information when it comes to financial ability. One thing that I would like to state here is that it is very clear that the debt component will only kick in after the equity has been deployed. Now, on the issue of the equity, there hasn't been a clarification, as we know that there's some unknowns there in terms of the 30% equity. Now, there's some portions of within that 30% that is going to be, or some portions that are going to be funded by different people that are going to take up the equity. And that part becomes important because for the project to start, it means the 30% equity must have been secured, and the project will then start. And now we were supposed to at least been fully informed that now there is certainty when it comes to the equity part of the funding. That is, the project will then commence, and the 30% of it, of the 100% of the total project cost, will then be made available because there are some firm commitments made in that regard. But we are not getting that. I'm simplifying it because I expected that part at least be the part that is giving us comfort today as we are required to take a decision for a recommendation to the energy regulator. And that is not coming out clearly. I will also indicate that this also is not clarified properly in terms of the summary that we have. Firstly, in the covering submission, I'm referring you to paragraph 4.6 and paragraph 4.7. They are left hanging instead of trying to just wrap up there, but not only relying on the covering submission, going to the reasons for decision itself, which is the part that is going to be out there, where we need to now show that we have looked into it. You will see that the part for equity is dealt with in paragraph 5.12, as well as in paragraph 5.13 of the reasons for decision. And that is the part that is not firmed up properly, so that on that part of the equity, at least NERSA comes out clearly, because that is the part that is going to facilitate the commencement of phase 1 of the project, which are the 8 tanks that we are talking about. So that is the first part of the dependence we are talking about. The second part of the dependence that we are talking about is the viability of the project. And I would have expected that the team from NERSA has done the viability part, looking at the net present value and all of that, just to work out on that part during the licensing. And I'm not finding that. All that the team has done in terms of the analysis and motivation is simply to dwell a lot on what what you call the what you call the debt funders have promised, without looking into the viability of the project. Because when you look at this, you also have to look on the other side, how much is going to be generated even through the tariff, without necessarily assessing tariff per se, but just to look at whether this is going to be viable, looking at the cost of this project and whether it's going to be viable. And that has not been looked into. It has not been done at that part of the assessment. And that is important. It's important also because even the debt partner here that has promised it also needs to, it's stated that it also needs to, at least based on the summary here, that it's also looking at the viability of the project. It needs to be comfortable with the viability of the project. And we have not done anything in that regard. All of that we dwell on is just the what they say, and then you assess what they say. You know, are these people have submitted some letters, that the letters still valid, and that sort of thing. That's essentially what has been done. The third dependent factor here is the issue of due diligence. The funder stated, the debt funder stated that again, its funding is dependent on the thorough due diligence that must still be done for this project. There's no viability assessment that is done, financial viability or viability of the project, as well as the due diligence that must still happen in the future. So that is going to happen next year as we hear it. Now, again, we don't know. And the financial close is also next year. Now, I'm asking myself, do we have the necessary information at the time of taking the decision? When we have these unknowns, the things that will happen in the future. The other point that makes me uncomfortable here is that you will see in the earlier paragraphs that the very same debt bank that committed to fund, it stated that yes, that letter is a letter that was issued. It's one thing to say that it's a norm to issue a letter. I'm not disputing that for now, just on the point I want to make. The letter is there, but it is stated that for the term sheet to be valid, it will need to be agreed upon between the parties in writing, because you've got this in writing and it was in 2022. So once then the time has elapsed. So if there's going to be changes, it says that based on what the parties have agreed upon, if one now wants to rely on the validity of what has been said. So it stated that it will be something that is done in writing between the parties. So there is nothing that has been done between the parties, at least from the assessment that is before us. Nothing that is being shown to say, as indicated, this is something that has to be done between the parties. It is not there. Now, the question is whether this now is something that we must take. And I'm very worried about, because instead of now saying, yes, we agree, we said if anything changes, it will be put in writing. Instead, it says, no, well, I'm still interested in doing this. And obviously, I made it clear that the debt component will come after equity. But what I want to still be certain about is the viability of the project and the due diligence. So anything that I would do, it will depend on the due diligence that must still take place. So those are the things for me that I am worried about. So it does not give us assurance because there's nothing that is in writing, as it stated that everything will be in writing. Now, very quickly, Chairperson, I wanted to emphasize on that because it is not really dealt with, and even at least to tighten up on the issue of the equity part. Just also, Chairperson, to indicate that and this is on 5.14 where it is dealt with. I want to also, Chairperson, deal with the things, the way that we have written some of the things here, the other dependents of this project. The other dependence is on 5.24, 5.24. And the connection aspect of it in terms of the loading facilities that are dependent on SFF. Again, this is something that, again, this project is dependent on another company that must build facilities so that this application that is before us, for it to be successful, or for it to, yes, to be successful, it needs to, it depends on another company making its own decisions and investment decisions to build the facilities that the applicant may be able to connect to. So that's the other issue there, meaning that the bulk, the liquid bulk, and the auxiliary pipeline that must be built by SFF for COT to connect to that. And maybe we need to also change the way that we are writing there on 5.25 to say that NERSA is aware that SFF is busy with the upgrading. I think we can put it much better there to indicate that we are aware that it is in the process of building, if it's building or whatever the case may be. And then change also 5.226 there to say that it is our view that the project is in line with national policy and whatnot. I don't know what national policy there. We can't state those things in the TNPA and express ourselves on the fact that because we didn't make assessments of Operation Pagisa, TNPA, blow, and all of those, we must make an assessment of our own requirements. We can't make an assessment of this application based on other things that are outside of our jurisdiction. So we can't make an expression of our view regarding the fact that the project is in line with national policy. No, that we can't. Like Operation Pagisa, TNPA, SPDZ, and all of those things are outside of our mandate to make an assessment of whether or not there is compliance. Let's make an assessment of what it is from our side, whether this will actually succeed, looking at SFF for connection and so forth, and whether we've done verification with TNPA, whether a project of this nature is supported, and we just state that it is supported by TNPA and this and that. So that's what I wanted to indicate. Chairperson, there are some other points, but...
Okay, just finish up. It's fine.
Okay.
I thought it'd come to an end.
No, there were just some few issues. I don't know whether you want me to stop, but I thought I could emphasize the points that I have read here.
Yeah, you may quickly, just talk to them because it would be, and I mean, like unwise for us to not to listen to any to your comments. And yeah, please.
Okay, no, that's fine then. And then, Chair, I think, I'm losing my track of thoughts now. Anyway, Chairperson, I think there are some just few things that the team needs to just check. Just check 4.1 there. Just the date there to say that on 17 March 2027, that is in the future. Just check those things 4.1. I'm not going to dwell on those minor things, but there were some substantive issues that I just wanted to raise for purposes of the discussion. If we can just go to 4.5, on page, sorry, on it's 4.5 of the covering submission. It's not page 5 of 9. And I think it's also captured elsewhere. Some of these discussions about the meetings, Chairperson, we can change them the way that we phrase them. I mean, these are all just engagements without dwelling.
Sorry, Madam, I just want to check. The page that you're referring is the green page or what? Is it item 5 or item 5?
Of the covering submission, Chair. Of the covering submission.
It runs from 1 up to 15 pages.
Yeah. Chairperson, I'm on the covering submission is 5 of 9. 5 of 9 if you look at the pages at the bottom. 5 of 9.
Okay, I just need to recalibrate my pages because I've got 15 pages here. Okay, but you may continue. It's fine.
Okay, mine it says 5. It says page 5 of 9, and the paragraph is paragraph 4.5. If we can just find a way, Chairperson, of dealing with those 4.5, 4.6, let's find a way, Chairperson, and 4.7 to collapse them and just capture the essence there, because the way that we framed some of these, it's like, I mean, we go and meet with other stakeholders that are mentioned for purposes of verifying information received. So I would not want us to write as though we, the way that it is done here, we're not in negotiations as part of sort of the negotiations and all of those kind of things or helping. But all that we are doing is to verify information that is before us to then see what is the fact, what we have established, and whether what we have established satisfies our requirements. So, but the way that we've written it here, it is not like that. So maybe some of the information we can reduce, Chairperson, on 4.5, especially the other paragraphs, the last paragraph of 4.5, and then the first paragraph of 4.6, and yeah. So there are those things. Now on figure. On figure, I don't know, on figure 1 on paragraph 4.4, I'm not sure about those tanks that we've mentioned, the accumulative tanks that we have mentioned there, whether they're part of the RAP or maybe there's a specific reason why we are mentioning those tanks, but maybe we just need to clarify that and put it properly there. And then also there's this amount on the current value of assets, the current asset value that is mentioned there. It's confidential, but what does that mean? Is that the estimated asset value, or is what they own currently? If we can clarify that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Madam Massetti. Over to you, Mr. Sibanda.
Thank you, Chair, and to the team. Chairperson, I think we probably need to take a step back and try and establish what standard of proof are we supposed to be applying in these types of applications. Are we supposed to establish with certainty that this applicant will make it in the market, or are we supposed to apply some level of judgment and probability that there's a likelihood that given the information that we have, that the applicant is likely to be successful. And I do understand that the Act doesn't really give detail or guidance in terms of what to look for. And the most contentious issue here has been the financial abilities. But when I looked at what's in the submission and the fact that we have guidelines that try to assist, or that we should be following when assessing the financial abilities of an applicant. And so I thought perhaps that is what should be guiding us, or we should be confining ourselves to whether the information that we have before us does meet the requirements of the guidelines. And I'm looking at paragraph 5.2. And it appears to me that we are required to look at a combination of different documents. Not that we need to, not that the applicant needs to provide the whole list that is given, but perhaps a combination. The only challenge that I have, Chair, when I follow that logic, or try to follow the guidance in terms of what is listed in paragraph 5.2 on page 8 of 28, when we then begin to do the assessment from paragraph 5.4 onwards, we sort of there is some kind of doubt in our analysis as to whether what we have is adequate. I think that's the only challenge that I have. But insofar as trying to meet the guidelines, the documents that are listed, I was quite comfortable. But when you follow the assessment that follows from paragraph 5.4 onwards, it appears there are some gaps, but then the conclusions are that we are satisfied that the applicant does meet the requirements. So I'm a bit unsure, Chair, and I can point to specifics. For instance, on paragraph 5.13, it's not quite clear to me that the equity partner is able to meet the funding requirements. Similarly, I think also in terms of 5.6 as well, I think we are not quite certain that the funding will be forthcoming. So that's my only challenge that I have, Chair. That in as much as there are these guidelines, but in our assessment we are not quite certain or firm in terms of what we think is happening here. Maybe the team could assist, but I thought perhaps we just need to maybe confine ourselves to that list, or the guideline that is indicated there. And then I also had a question on the competition assessment, part E of the submission from paragraph 5.41. Yeah, actually, I think it's table 5, and the analysis before that refers to table 2, and it talks about 18 players in the market, but that table only has about 12 licensees, and if you look at 5.49, it talks about SFF having 70% market share, but that table doesn't really show what is happening. Maybe I could be clarified what is happening in table 5 and the analysis before that from paragraph 5.49. But the two just there's no alignment between the table and the analysis that's given. Yeah, Chair, I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. Tim, you'll have to respond. But I would just like to kind of guide in terms of you responding. I think there's an important issue that Mr. Sibanda highlighted, the one of judgment, the level of judgment and likelihood of success. And I think that it's important to bear in mind that projects, in executing projects, it's a gated process. As you move from one gate, the certainty increases. But still, you have to have some level of judgment, also based on the dependencies. If certain things can be put to bed to reduce the likelihood of failure, that helps in terms of moving forward. Also, will be the issue of, as a regulator, and not to, in that judgment, not to unduly block out and require to overzealously require certain stringent imposition of conditions for success of a project, noting that project development, it entails risk management as well as risk sharing. And from that point of view, you would have a certain level of certainty as you move from a very rough order of magnitude cost estimate to rough order to an order of estimate to semi-definitive as you move in your project development. And I think that we need to then bear that in mind. And with regard to the previous projects, we also need to note that some of the things were actually not about the information at hand, particularly when you look at those that are in the area of in the Durban, outside of the port there, that it's a matter of the agreements, the lease agreements with Transnet in that regard. So I'm saying that there is information that we have, and I think it's for the team to then really assist by pointing to those specific paragraphs in terms of giving assurances. For example, the equity part is able to meet the requirements and then get the project going, noting that the equity side must precede the debt part. So let's be very clear with that. Also, there are other issues for enhancement that I don't want you to necessarily dwell on them, like paragraph 4.5 and 4.6. We need to highlight that these are for verification purposes and not immersing NERSA to be like seemingly like part of negotiations. You need to stay at arm's length with the project whilst getting to the facts about the project. And be very clear when you're talking of the current value or the estimated asset values as you move forward. I think for me, it's also important to note that there is a certain, also in the same vein that you talk of the RAB and have those levels of the orders of magnitude. You will also have orders of magnitude when it comes to viability. Hence, the reference to, I would say, the review, as well as the agreement later on when it comes to, or the updating of these figures as one moves from one gate to the next in the process of project development. Certainties around the availability or the level of agreement in as far as offtakes and all of that play a crucial role in terms of making the project bankable. I think when you're explaining team members, it's important also to highlight the kind of standard documents that are then deemed acceptable as one moves from gate to gate. Because even if there's an offtake, that offtake, a person cannot pin himself down to something that he doesn't know that's going to happen or not happen. So there are certain conditionalities, and there are levels at which letters are deemed to be adequate from a point of view of taking a project from one level to the next, not necessarily also putting your heads on the block around the issue of the success of that particular project, as I like the term of exercising judgment with due regard of all matters. And then lastly, if you also can, when you talk to other laws, I think refer to the section in the Act, I think Section 4, that talks to taking our decisions based on published government policy. If you may please just assist with regard to doing that. So I won't waste any time. I think it is clear. Team, please respond, point to the specific paragraphs so that if there's any enhancement that needs to be done, it can be done there. But with the abilities, please help us to have this comfort that those abilities are demonstrated to your satisfaction. And therefore, you are recommending it in this particular way to us. Over to you.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to members for the guidance. We have noted that. Indeed, as you indicate, that the reason we've highlighted the other government policies is based on our Act. I'll just post the section on the chat, which says the energy regulator should not take a decision which are at variance with other government policies. So we're just trying to highlight in that sense. Peladi will come in and talk to the guidelines, and then Martin will also assist. But I also needed to highlight that as much as we are highlighting on paragraph 5.13, that from what the equity submitted was indicating a shortfall. However, later on, we did receive the financial statement, which indicated sufficient fund for the equity partner that it will be able to satisfy the required equity amount. So maybe colleagues can talk to in terms of confirming or firming up that, or maybe the way that we've written it, we need to sort of highlight it. That's the conclusion on that part. I've noted also on the project viability from paragraph 5.29 that we do talk about project viability in terms of the volumes, the capacity, the off-takers. Also, colleagues, if we may just touch on that, just to firm up and guide the members in terms of the indication of what we're trying to highlight then. So maybe Peladi may come in, and then Martin will then follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ntwa, and good morning to the members and colleagues. So maybe just to start out, I just wanted to address the concern of a certain aspect on the funding and what the requirements are in terms of our guidelines. So in 2022, members may recall, we embarked on a process where we were reviewing our licensing guidelines. And in that process, one of the key things that we considered was the barrier to entry for new entrants, where previously we were looking at firm commitment for funding, and we're always getting this where new entrants or historically disadvantaged South Africans cannot get to a point where they are able. May I proceed?
Yeah, just if you can just stabilize and please just try to stabilize. You seem to be having. But continue.
Am I audible now, Chair? Okay, so Chair, what I wanted
Proceed,
to
please.
highlight. Thank you. What I wanted to highlight is that in that review that we undertook, we looked at the kind of that the banks issued to such projects, and there were some that we looked at where the banks themselves were saying where we do not state the amount that we will be paying or even the capacity. Then at that point we would not have done any due diligence. But the kind of letters that we received specifically for this one and asked before this, they specify the amount that they are fund, including the city, then we could say that it is at an advanced level and they've done some level of due diligence. Yes, complete, but they have a significant amount where they look at the technical aspect, including the viability of the project. But what I wanted to highlight is that subsequent to 2022, we were saying that we would, especially for the new entrants, accept such letters of interest so that we ourselves don't become a barrier to entry. Chair, you did highlight as well that there are levels to these letters, and as I've indicated, we have engaged with banks previously and funding institutions on these letters. But over and above, even my apologies, the principal funder themselves have said that they are still interested, including the principal equity partner as well, have said that they are still interested and they still have the appetite to fund this project. I think, Chair, I'll end there in terms of the guidelines, and based on what we received from the applicant itself, all the requirements in terms of our guidelines as stipulated were received from the applicant, and we analyzed that. Maybe just to highlight as well that why we put in the RFD, including the chairperson's report, the different lenses is because we members, yes, some of the risks that are out there, but we also wanted to show you the positives as well and not just bring in one lens. So that's why you will see that we do highlight the risk and do highlight some of the gaps. But in the end, as we draw towards our conclusion, we highlight the positives and how this is actually in line with the objects of the Act. Thank you, Chair.
Proceed. Then I'll return to Mr. Unjid. Mr. Sokapase?
Sorry, I didn't hear you correctly, Chair. Thank you. I just want to quickly respond to Mr. Sibanda's questions. I will take this as enhancement, and my apologies for the oversight, but you see paragraph 5.49 basically shouldn't be there in a way, because it sort of, when we looked into the total facilities before we narrowed the focus to the refined facilities. So if you look at SFF, it's an oil storage. So in a sense, what we should basically be focusing on, Mr. Sibanda, just to give you comfort, is paragraph 5.51, where we explicitly indicate the impact or the potential impact of the entry of COT, if and when it does, where we also cite then the reduction of the market share of the biggest player that exists at least in the market for the refined, for the storage of refined petroleum products. So I just wanted to give clarity on that, and just to say we will basically amend paragraph 5.49, and thank you for noting that. Thank you.
May I come in, Chair?
Also include the crude oil storage. So please make sure that all these things are correct. The numbering is very important, because kind of cast doubt in
David, may I
this.
just come in? I
Chair,
saw
we
Mr.
are losing.
Untit.
Crude oil. So I just wanted to check if I got your
these figures.
correct, I mean, your comment correct to say we should include all facilities, including the crude oil storage facility.
No, I'm saying make it clear. Can you hear me? Can anyone
We
hear
are
me?
losing you, Chairperson. We can hardly hear you. You are cutting, Chair.
We keep losing you, Chair.
I don't know what. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Chairperson, it's just that you cut, you don't complete the sentence, like some words we can't hear.
Okay. No, what I'm making it clear, maybe let me try to shout on my end. Please don't be offended in case it sounds like one is shouting. But from my side, what I need to make clear is that I was saying, so Kapase, make sure that you delineate things or finished product and make sure that the numbers are sure that we are correct, because once it is not totally up with the rest, it then kind of casts doubt to the rest of the analysis. So we've got systems in place to double check these numbers. So please, let's just do that. I'm gonna now give an opportunity to Mr. Untit and then back to the EM. Please, let's just go straight to the point, highlight the relevant paragraphs that you are responding to and that are addressing the issue. Please. And again, I must say, please help with the issue of the equity element, just that it is put to bed to make it clear to us. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In terms of the question on the RAB, on the 2 extra tanks that Ms. Masetti posed, so those 2 tanks are integral to operate this facility because it's bi-directional. It will bring in product but can also export. So it's like Transnet's accumulate the facilities. It must be there. And it must be part of the return that they get on the investment. So it will be part of the RAB, but it's not available to store and third-party access. So the principle is that we will exclude accumulation and slops tanks, which during the licensing of the design capacity. So I hope I've answered the question there. So it cannot operate this facility without them. So they have to get the return and maintain them, but it's not part of the licensable storage capacity. The second question relating to current assets, I think that is an oversight. We meant the estimate of the project as they envisaged it based on a accuracy level. I think it's 30%. I'll just double check now, but it's not the current asset development because it doesn't exist yet. It's the estimated amount of the assets, and that's what went into the financial model is that. So that's an oversight. We'll correct. I think just to touch on to what Mr. Sibanda asked and Mr. Mkhize has then guided us in terms of the judgment. It's definitely the judgment option which we've been following on the previous applicants. Then to just add the one question relates to Econ Oil. Indeed, we learned some lessons. And we have addressed that. So that was made a condition in the document itself or in the decision. This is not what we're doing here. So we did learn from that. And thank you for just also reminding us, Ms. Masetti, but it's not the case here. Here, it's not like we'll take the decision and then do that. but we will try address in your other comments with regards to not having the information. What was the next question? In terms of the equity injection, there is in the table analysis that was done, which was one of the guidance gave by the members. We took a fourth set of financial statements, and we redid that analysis, and that is shown in the cover submission table. And based on that, I can't mention the amounts, but they do add up. And if we look at the latest financial statements, there is more money available in terms of retained earnings to cover their portion. Maybe Mr. Sukupasi can just confirm. I'm not sure if there is like maybe a very, very 1% small, just help me there that I don't make an incorrect statement. But in terms of those quantums, they got their portion now. The portion that maybe is not then fully, and sorry for maybe the English and how we've portrayed it, that didn't give comfort. We did engage with that funder. We did write to them. I did call them twice. They were not prepared or to provide us with written comments, citing also client privileges and things like that. So we unfortunately did not get the same responses in writing, and therefore it may seems like it's lacking or it's not there. But it's difficult for me to base it on verbal discussion and introduce that in the submission. But they basically confirmed their interest, and maybe just although our first submission did refer to 22 documents, we subsequently got new documents for both funders as late as I think in July 2022, where that was reconfirmed. And that includes a DBS, includes the funders of that portion, did include that written response, but they didn't further reply to our questions seeking clarity on the details like we did with the other funder. And really, Mr. Gaba, maybe you must just come in on that while I just check my notes here, what I've missed. I trust Mr. Sibanda has been clarified in terms of the crude, and we note, Chair, the corrections of that, but I think it's because crude market is a completely different market. It's long-term storage. To put that part of that competition analysis for the refined market, same with LPG. It's completely different market segments, and that's why the one table referring to what was licensed by NERSA versus what then the same company may have 5 facilities. That means that there's lesser facilities, and that is how the competition analysis was done. Mr. Gaba, if you can come in on the financial viabilities while I just check what we've missed.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think this section will go into explaining a little bit on commercial viability of the project itself, and this assumes that everything has been okayed in terms of construction and operation, and looks into what the licensee then has submitted in terms of its model, in terms of what the customers it has or it envisions it's going to have, the tariffs that it envisions it's going to charge, and the cash flows associated with that as well. Now, this particular licensee finds itself in a unique position wherein that it had already secured a long-term take-or-pay contract with a key customer, and over a period of 20 years, starting in April the 1st of 2027. I think maybe I should state that paragraph 29 going down evaluates this section as I'm narrating it, just so that I don't shut out any confidential numbers. Also, with this, there is a negotiated or agreed upon tariff that is contracted for storage, with additional handling fees as well. This commercial structure then has gives the licensee an expected base revenue, which to anchor the contracts, amounting to the amount that is indicated in the submission itself. We also go further because of the performance matrix that are embedded into the model itself, which allow us to look at what the internal rate of return is expected for the licensee, which does exceed some of the compared licenses with which it would compete against, and we had done it in paragraph 5.33 of the submission itself, where we compared the weighted average cost of capital for similar licensees in the area as well. We also additionally went into see with the current revenues that is projected by the licensee in terms of its debt service coverage ratios, as well as loan life coverage ratios. So, that also yielded ratios that were above industry standards, above industry norms, showing that the project has sound commercial foundations and commitments, as well as a strong financial that would result in strong financial returns, particularly due to this long-term take-or-pay contract, which does not solely rely on the market demand itself. We also took it further with providing a comparison. As I had stated earlier, we compared the proposed tariff by the licensee with other licensees that are competing in the same market around the same area as well. And with these, we have found that the tariff that is proposed by the licensee was commercially justifiable as well. All that information, I think, is presented in from 5.29 to 5.40 of the submission. Let me step there.
Thanks, Mr. Kaba and the rest of the team. I think I underestimated the time that it would take to engage on this submission. And members, if you can give me an additional 15 minutes at max, I hope to be done with this. There are responses that have been provided regarding the issue of firming up on the viability of the project, issues that relate to the due diligence, as far as I maybe understand it, and also the issue of government policy. The challenge is also to the lack of sufficient information that we experienced in the past and what the lessons have learned from that. And also the matters that have been raised. And also just 5.13 regarding the equity partner being able to meet the requirements, noting also paragraph 5.6. Members, I don't know if you've got any follow-up questions with what has been provided before you. As seeing no hands, maybe just help me. I've just got a challenge with my convene. If you may just read the recommendation for PPS to know ER. Just assist me there. EM, if you may assist to read out the recommendation.
Chair, I can assist. The recommendation in 14.1 is that the PPS considers and recommends to the energy regulator to approve the application by Cape Oceans for a combined license to construct a petroleum storage facility to be located in Saldanha Bay and a pipeline connecting it to the berth at the port of Saldanha. Also recommend to the energy regulator the decision and reasons for decision document attached as Annexure 1 and the license conditions attached as Annexure 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Mahamata. Members, by show of hands, if you do the recommendation with the enhancements, subject to the enhancements that you have already been put forward to the team. I think the team will also need to go through the recording thoroughly. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I also support. This then concludes this item. Please make sure that you enhance the document accordingly and circulate it going to ER. All right. With that, I'd like to thank for your questioning, your comments, your guidance that you provide. Thanks to management and staff for your responses, and looking forward to you enhancing the document accordingly so that it ends up being a document that we can all vouch for. Written document, we having applied your minds accordingly. This then concludes the deliberations of today in the open side of the meeting.